Good afternoon on this Sunday. We're back here, our fourth Chalk Talk. This Chalk Talk with Coach Flo. Frankie Flora is my main man there behind the camera, and Dominic Flora obviously helped out a little bit as he normally does. So we're kind of finishing up from where we were last week. For those of you that watched a little bit of last week's video, this week we're representing William Paterson Pioneers. Last week we represented Kane Cougars. Like I said, I've worked at a couple of different places. Spent 17 years at William Paterson, 10 as the head football coach. So we're finalizing, kind of talking about this last day of the week on Sunday about finishing up on the special teams, at least in the one phase of punt. There are some things, if you watch last week's video, obviously I'm always taking notes. I go back and I watch my videos and I see, maybe how they run or how they're presented. And I had some thoughts about last week's video. So I go through real quick here kind of what we're talking about today. Today we're going to review some notes from last week's video. We're going to spend very minimal time. I'm going to draw up a field setup for a specific TCU period that we talked about last week. So you could see what the field would look like if we were doing a TCU A, which may be a punt, as opposed to maybe a TCU B, which would be kick return. I could show you what a kick return setup looks like as well when we get to kick return in, say, a few weeks. The third piece we're going to talk about is just camp installation. I know camp's a lot far off for a lot of people, but we'll talk about how you would install or what I would normally install on day one. So if I was doing day one of spring ball, if I was doing day one of fall training camp, how would I install? And kind of what the terminology is when we have it in our playbooks and stuff that we give out to our players. And then the fourth piece is just kind of going back and talking about last week's punt. I drew up an even look, a 4 and 4. We talked about white protection. I drew up an overload, which was 3 and 5. We talked about red and blue, man side and a zone side. Hopefully we have some time in today's video. I'm going to give you some variations to things I've run. Also things that I've had some of my special teams coordinators run that's way outside the box special teams wise. And when I say way outside the box, is you have your traditional spread punt with the two gunners, your punter, your personal protector, your wings, your guys up front, and then you have your variations. And listen, I could tell you just from experience that if you're trying to game plan for something. So if you're playing a team that runs a triple option and you're on defense, it's hard, man, because you only got really, especially if you play them in the middle of the season and you play a bunch of spread teams to start the season and you're in week 5, you're now preparing for that team. You got like 4 or 5 days to simulate that kind of offense. It's hard. So, if we give you a different look or we do something different on special teams and you don't normally see that, now you got to prepare for it because, you don't know if we're going to run it and you don't know if it's actually going to happen in the game. So we'll get to that as well when we get to this. Couple things I wanted to talk about. A couple notes I wrote down was that I wanted to reiterate was this. I talked a lot about numbers with you last week in terms of a college roster, especially a Division III roster. And then as you go up, they have roster limits. Well, in Division III, a lot of teams, most teams go with 100. Some teams are just under 100. Some teams are capped at 125, 150. Some are go as much as 2 1/4. And obviously, the more bodies you have, we realize the more people you have involved, the more options you have. I want to say kudos to high school coaches. I've never coached in high school. Obviously played high school ball at Bellport High School in Long Island for Coach Sip, Coach Still, Coach Erickson, Coach Conquest. They were the kind of the backbone of that program way back in the 80s. I can tell you, and high school coaches can say, I mean, they don't have numbers. A lot of high school programs, may have 30 on the varsity. They may have 40. They may have less. They may have more. And so when I talked to you last week about what you need for special teams, no matter how many you have on your roster, you need 11 guys on the field. So, and you need 11 guys to simulate the 11 that are going to complete that skill. So, if you're doing punt in practice and you got 11 guys on punt, well, you need to put 11 guys out there. If you only got 30 guys in your roster, then yeah, it makes it hard. It really makes it hard because you don't have the specialty that you have, say, when you get to college. When you get to college, you can specialize by position. So like I said to you last week about punt, we usually go with our R1s, which are right next to R1, L1, right next to the center. What we like to do, what we had done based on what you would like the perfect player to be, is that's like an inside linebacker. That's like a tight end. That's someone tighter, doesn't have to fan out and cover the whole field. It deals with just protection. In high school, you may not have that problem. I mean, that solution. In high school, you may have to go on an offensive tackle. In high school, you may have to go on a defensive lineman. In high school, you may have to go with a fullback. So kudos to high school coaches. I give them a shout out because I'll be honest with you, as I thought about it afterwards when I talked to you, and then when I went back and watched the video, I thought to myself, well, I'm focusing here on college, when the reality is there's going to be some high school guys that watch this that are like, wow, like what do we do? If you're talking about going 4 deep, man, we can't go 4 deep. And kudos to you guys because I don't know how you do it, and I know how you do it. You put the best players you can put on the field, and then you figure it out from there. The other thing I wanted to talk about real quick before I move on is I kind of when I was talking to you about protection last week for punt. I kind of changed what I said during the video, and one thing I want to make sure is that you're on point with what I'm saying, so that we're very transparent. So what you hear from me, throughout the whole video, if I'm talking about certain steps or whatever, it's the same throughout the whole video. I'm not changing my tune. Too many people, will go off on a tangent. So I talked to you about punt protection. I talked to you about man. What I said was, when you kick step and you allow that defender to come to you, excuse me, when you engage on him, you're going to stay on him. You're not going to switch. Well, that's wrong, because one of the factors or one of the facets of TCU when you split that line up on the side is you work on switches. Because if you remember later in my video, I talked about that wide rush when it was an overload. Let's say overload left. If you're looking at the video, it's overload that way. When it's overload that way, I talked about how my wing, my L3 and my L2 have to kick, and they may have to worry about switches. So the reality is, yes, you're going to have to block, in some cases, a man, in some cases, a zone, and in some cases, you're going to have to work on a switch. The one thing I can tell you that's transparent across the board is if your punt protection does not step away from the line of scrimmage, there's a really good opportunity that punt return guy is going to get past him for a block. And I'm going to give you techniques that we would use on punt return or punt block to try and get to a block if you see a punt protection guy duck his head. So that's the one that's quite evident. So hopefully that helps you. Like I said, once again, kind of getting back to the beginning, Jerry Flora, former head football coach at William Patterson University, 20-some-odd years, 28 years of coaching experience. Just stepped aside a couple of years ago, looking at the next phase of my career, which hopefully is athletic administration, maybe pro scouting, maybe personnel, that type of stuff. Just trying to get some information to you about different things going on. Please subscribe to the channel if you can. Please hit the like button and hit the bell so that you know when the future videos are coming up. I would like to see some interaction in the videos if possible. So if you have comments about the video, comments for me, just under the video, hey, Coach Flora, what do you think about this? Or we do this in high school, what do you think about that? And I'd like to interact with you, and hopefully you'd like to interact with me. Because like I said, this is not something that, this is something I take very seriously. If there's something that I have that you want a copy of, I will make a copy of it and send it to you. I'm not doing this for money. I'm not doing this for anything like that. I'm doing it to try to help you and help you be a better coach. Because I can tell you it's made me a better coach by watching a lot of these videos to try and do the things I needed to do. With that said, I'm going to move to number 2. We're going to move to number 2 right now, which is, I'm going to draw up a TCU board. And what that is. So, if we were going to do a field setup, and please bear with me. So, if this is your field, let's say, all right, and whatever it is, home side, visiting side, I don't care how you have it broken up. Here's the 50-yard line. Okay, and if you remember me talking about TCU-A and TCU-B, right now I'm talking about TCU-A. Let's say we're talking about TCU-A Sunday. So this is what you do. This is what we did on Sunday for the first 5 minutes. Okay, we had 5 different drills going on for the first 5 minutes. So on the scoreboard side, so we had a scoreboard obviously here, and there was no scoreboard over there. So on the scoreboard side of the 35 going in, so here is, let's call this the 35. Okay, here's a 35. All right, we had a red zone cover drill. Okay, so we had a punter. A punter was aligned on the 40. Okay, and he was working on coffin corner. We had headhunters, we had corners, we had a line of corners here and here. If you don't have enough numbers, you put them on the same side. You put them on the same side. We're zooming in here, Frank. We can see this. Okay, I just want to make sure we can see the board. That's all. Can you see what I'm drawing up? Okay, so we got corners. You could have one line on one side, however it is. Okay, and what you got involved in this drill is you have a snappers. Can't spell, sorry. You have punters. You have headhunters. You could put a returner here if you want. So let's say this is the goal line. What we used to tell our returners is put your heels on the 10. So heels on the 10. So here are your returners on the 10. And these guys here are snapping the ball and they're working on covering one guy behind, one guy in front. Okay, and they're working on if the guy, we tell our guy heels on the 10. So if the ball goes over your head, step forward. Okay, if you could catch it, catch it. We don't want them catching on 9.5. We don't want to catch on a 9. So that was drill number 1. And with that, you had 2 coaches involved. Okay, then on the 5-yard line of the scoreboard side coming out, you had your returners, like I said. Okay, and here you had we had 1 coach involved, and he was the guy that was in charge of returners, and his job was to coach the returners. So you had 2 coaches, probably one working on some sort of snap to punt organization, and you had one that was working on both corners. So he may have an assistant or a GA, or he may not. He may have to just stand here in the middle and go back and forth. So you got 2 coaches here, 1 coach there. So you have station 1, station 2, even though it's all together. Then on the other side of the field, on the 50-yard line, you had a kicker here. So mind you, I want to take a step back. We did call it TCU Punt. We changed it over the course of time to TCU Sunday. And the reason why was because we didn't want to just spend time on punt. So if that day we were doing punt, kick, return, we knew that within the 2 5-minute periods we were going to do punt and kick return. So we didn't want to just do a punt and a kick return because we wanted everybody involved. So we just called TCU Sunday. So now you got your kickers working on a short kick drill. A short kick drill. You have 2 coaches involved. Frank, we can see this, right? Just making sure. And we had a kicker and or a football gun. Why do we do that? Well, you may only have one kicker on your roster, and you may not want to overdo him. So if you have a gun, you now have a kicker kick, and then you have a gun, like a football gun. If you don't have a gun, maybe use a quarterback that's got a good arm. Okay? And they're working on a short kick drill, which is a sky ball drill, that's going to land between the 35 and the 45. Sorry. 35 and the 25, just outside the hash. So in this box here. So I know this is not drawing the scale, but now these guys are going to work on getting the ball in here. What you did was maybe you put garbage cans there, maybe you put cones there, maybe you put guys there to catch it. So they were just working on that one step kick spot in that area. So that's station number 3. Station number 4 is now down here closer to like 10 yards. So this is on the 50. So now in the 35, you took guys that normally do not handle kickoffs. So they're not returners or whatnot. Maybe they're guys that run down the field. Let's call them, let's call it your kickoff team. What you did was they worked on here. Front cover, sorry. Front wall, sorry. So what you did here now is on the 35, you took your front wall. So this is the front wall of your kickoff return team. So you took your front wall of your kickoff return team, your 5 guys, and you put them on the 35. We call them center, guard, tackle, okay? And you didn't, obviously, during a game situation, they would extend past the hash, but you couldn't extend past the hash on one side because of the sky drill. So you extended maybe a little bit this way. And what you did with them is you worked on their drop. So they were working on their drop. And typically we would tell them we lined them up, if the team was kicking off, they were lined up like on the 50, and they were told to drop at least 15 yards. So what they were doing is they were working on either drops, 15 yards, or what you did with them, because of field space sometimes, is you just worked on handling the squib kick. Just before the half. So we told them a lot of times, if the ball's on the ground, let it roll through. Because if you didn't have hands guys in there, you didn't want them touching the ball. Because that's what the kickoff team wants to do. They want guys that don't touch the ball to fumble it, and then they get a score. So that you had that going on. And then down on the far end by the goal post here, you had your field goal unit. You had your line and everyone involved. You had no defense, but you had 3 coaches. And we can see this, right, Frank?
Yeah.
So I know this seems like a lot of chaos for you right now, but you could call it chaos if you wanted to. But this is what we did for TCU Sunday. And this is the first 5 minutes. I didn't even draw up the second 5 minutes. So think about what we talked about the last time, about being detail-oriented and being focused and being organized. It's just not a matter of, guys see what they see on TV and say, man, I want to do that. There's a lot of ways to get to that. So you have all this going on. So once again, review. You have on one end of the field, now you've got filmers. So you got to film it too. So luckily for us in college, a lot of times we had two guys up on top of the press box. We always had two guys up here, or at least one. You had at least one press box guy. We had an end zone camera. And then a lot of times we'd have a third filmer, and he'd be on a handheld, and he may be down here. So we may have, let's say, the end zone camera for this drill would be behind the field goal team. And then, you know, this press box guy is punting this operation. And then the field guy on the field is filming between this and this. So you're getting everything filmed. Everything. So I go back to what I said before. If you're the third string strong safety, you're not getting a lot of run as a starter on defense, and you're on punt, and you're doing these drills, you could go back and watch these drills. Okay? So, once again, this is TCU Sunday. This is what you do the first day out of your game, the first day of game week. You got a coach with the returners. You got two coaches coaching up snap to punt organization. One coach coaching the gunners, headhunters, to work on in front and behind. You need a lot of footballs. You need your student workers, whoever you have extra, to have as many footballs out there as possible. Excuse me. You got sky kick. You got front line. You got field goal, extra point. You got everything going on. So you have a punt segment. You got a return concept. You got a kickoff concept. You got a kick return concept. And you got a field goal extra point concept. And down here, all you got is just, you got management. You got three coaches. You got one coach works on the right side of the line. One coach works on the left side of the line. And one coach is working snap to hold the kick. And you don't even have a defense. Because you know what? You don't want to put defense out there. It's going to waste too much time. They need another coach. Set up. You're working on organization. You need reps. Reps. And you got to set the field up accordingly so that these guys don't run into these guys. So if these guys are kicking from the 50, well, then maybe these guys are on the 40. And maybe you tell them to drop to the 25. And then, so to 20 is their cutoff. So these guys are in a 40 to 20 window. These guys are in a 50 to 40 window. That gives the extra point field goal team the 10 to goal line window. It has to be organized. I trust you. If you're going to do something like this, a lot of coaches, a lot of young coaches have said to me, I don't know if I could do that. It's pretty intimidating. It's pretty scary. Because if you're in charge, you're the one guy in charge, you got to make sure all this stuff is going on for 5 minutes. And now, mind you, the only other thing that I talk about, what I forgot to talk about last week, the only time when you do these periods, there's times where the only two groups that are not involved are O-lineman and D-line, typically in special teams. But you will have some on the teams. In TCU, you can see you got everyone involved. You may have your starting punter, your starting quarterback, maybe a punter. Your backup quarterback, maybe a snapper. Your starting O-line is down here. You may have O-line and D-lineman on the front wall. Everyone's involved. So, Frank, we got that?
Yeah.
You can see all that?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what a day looks like. This is TCU Sunday. There's a TCU Sunday B. So you have, remember I said you have an A and you have a B. I'm not going to draw up the B. If you want the B, like I said, I will make copies for you. You tell me you want it. I'll make a copy and send it to you. Okay, moving on. Just going to talk about camp installation. So camp install. So this is what I did day one. So day one, well, it was actually day two, because day one, typically you'd have that, in Division III, you have that acclimatization period, so you get like a shorter practice. You don't have a lot of time to do all other stuff, so you're really just doing field goal, extra point, get a couple kicks, get it in, get it out of the way. This is the second day. Second day, you're doing field goal, extra point, 2 middle, 2 left, 2 right, verse looks. Then you're doing punt. You're doing 6 up with stacks, which is probably going to be white. You're doing punt return. Frank, we can see this, right?
Yeah.
And we're doing a return right. Okay? So, this is what we would do day 1 or day 2. This is day 2. And for return right was Raptors. We had names. So you could call out from the sideline, Raptors, Raptors. It was basketball teams were our return team. So it was Toronto Raptors. So if we yelled out Toronto Raptors, they knew it was return right. Okay? So we're doing this. This is what we're doing on Tuesday. So now, mind you, remember I talked to you about everyone getting a playbook. So this is in their playbook that they have. So everything that they have is in their playbook. So when the players start to prepare, all right, you'll see here, right there in the playbook. Zoom in. That's the day 2. It says it right there for them. So they know exactly what's going on. So if you're on special teams, once again, there's no gray area. They know exactly what's going on. Okay? So this is what the install was. Okay? So now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes of what today is about. So today's about punt. So we talked about this last week. So we're going to review really quick. So you have this. You have a snapper, R1, R2, R3, a gunner, L1, L2, L3, a gunner, a personal protector, a punter. Your numbers again are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I want to make sure you can see, okay? So last week we talked about white, red and blue. White. White meant that it was a zone protection. It was an even protection. There was 4 on one side of the snapper. There was 4 on the other side of the snapper. Not including the 2 guys covering the gunners. Okay, so for us, our personal protector would say 8 up, even, white, set. Okay, 8 up, told everyone that it was an 8 up look. Even, told everyone it was even. White, told what the protection was. Set, wait a half a second to a second, snap the ball, punt it. Once again, the protection was very basic. Our punters were normally righties, so we would have our personal protector on the right. Our snapper knew that. So our snapper knew that on white he would step left. He had the left gap, left A, because the personal protector had the right A. So the personal protector in this case was responsible for 5. R1 was responsible for 4. R2 was responsible for 3. R3 was responsible for 2. On the left side, the snapper, after he snapped, he was responsible for 6. L1 had 7. L2 had 8. L3 had 9. And that's how it was broken down. And you see these guys are in the gaps too. Okay, so these guys are lined up. You can see how they're in the gap. So once again, for those that may not be, I'm not going to assume everyone knows everything. This is the A gap, B, C, D. So that's how you figured the gaps. So like I said last week, when these guys would kick step, this guy's responsibility was the kick step. His inside foot was up, so he'd go 1, 2, 3. They were trying to build a wall. He's responsible for 4. So 4 is on his outside shoulder. Inside foot is up. The ball's that way. he's responsible for him. So as he kicks 1, 2, 3, he's waiting for 4 to come to him. 4 is probably, if you're taught from a special teams punt return standpoint, is get vertical first, then make a move. Unless you're doing some sort of game right away. What we told this guy not to do was never do this. Because a big no-no is now he ducks under and you got to block punt. We always told this guy, when you kick 1, 2, 3, your shoulders stay square, you wait for him to come to you. When he comes to you and he engages, you engage. Once you're engaged, then you could turn. Because that would allow the switches, those types of things. Okay. All right, so that was your white. Okay. Your red. Basically now when you went red, two would go stacked, 3, 4. Now 5 would be in the gap, 6, 7, 8, 9. I know it's not drawing the scale. It's really tight. I apologize, but you get the gist. I talked to you last week about this. Now, when you get an overload, it was red. Eight up. Overload left. Red. Set. That's the call from the personal protector. 8 up. Overload left. Red. Set. Once again. Overload left. 8 up. Told him how many we had up. Overload left. Said, oh my God, we got to think. We got 5 left or whatever left. Color red. Man side right. Zone side left. Set. I did tell you last week, personal protector was always to the side of the punter. Okay, and I did say, we would like to have him over here if it was an overload. We didn't have to. I went back and looked at some notes. We didn't have to. We once again told R1 had 4, R2 had 3, R3 had 2. They were responsible for the man, so if there were switches, they had to take them. So if he kick stepped, and he did one of these, then R2, as long as his shoulders were square, he could take them. He could go switch, switch, switch. And now he could take them, and then the other guy can go outside. They don't have to run with a guy. Okay? If the personal protector stayed on the right side, then here's how you protect it. We always said that the snapper had to block. The snapper had to get 5. So we always said that 3 had 9, 2 had 8. 1 would fan to 7. If personal protector stayed to the right, we'd call fan call. Fan told L1, L2, L3 that they're blocking 7, 8, 9. That told the personal protector that he lined up tight to the snapper, and after the ball was snapped, he was over here, and he had 6. If he didn't move, okay? If he moved, we'd set him over here, and he'd block 6. Obviously, that would be ideal. There were times that we didn't do that, okay? Once again, the only guy that's stepping up to block is the personal protector. Everybody else is stepping off. Next, before I get to some variations that you're really going to like. It was overload the other way. You'd have 9, 8, 7, 6 is in the gap, 5 in the gap, 4 in the gap, 3 outside, 2, 1. That would be blue. Excuse me. 8 up. Overload right. Blue. Set. Real simple. L3 had 9. L2 had 8. L1 had 7. These guys played heads up a lot of time, So now you didn't have him on his outside shoulder. So when he's on his outside shoulder, he may kick out a little bit. When he's head up, he's dropping straight back. So here's here, here, here. Man. What I tell you before, we call fan call. We fan it. Fan. This guy here would fan it here. 3 had 2. 2 had 3. 1 had 4. Person protector had 5. He had 6. And they didn't block it that way, obviously. It meant that, you know, this guy had the easier path to 2. As long as this guy dropped straight back, 3 would go up the field. He doesn't have to engage him until he gets at him. If he stays out there, he stays there. He doesn't move. We don't want him to jump out here and then this happens. No. Punting the ball is the most important thing you do. Okay. We got a couple minutes here. What time are we at, Frank?
36.
Okay, good. So we're right on time. All right, so we're going to try and finish there around 45 or something.
It's not zoomed in.
Okay. So now you got some variations. A lot of different things you could do. For starters. And I'm not going to draw up defenses right now. You could go spread punt. That's your center. Spread punt. You go R1, R2, R3, gunner. Now, in fact, let's do it this way. So this is different from regular spread punt. All right? We'd call this maybe double slot. Or maybe, you know, you ask the kids, give it a name. This is when the kids get all excited about this stuff. Because now you've had R2 and R3 line up in a wing. This looks like an offensive formation. Basically, you run and shoot your spread teams where they go 2 by 2. You put your gunners out here by the numbers. You put your R3 and L3 on the hashes. These guys are here on the line of scrimmage. Why is this great? Well, because teams got to prepare against it. So now they're thinking, oh my God, what do we do? So, you know, all right, so let's say they put a corner out here and a corner out here, and now they take number 2 and number 1 covers this guy. And now maybe they go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is out here. You know, he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It was just easier for me to use numbers instead of positions. So our corners knew that they were 1s and 10s. So then they had something like this. All right? So guess what your protection is? It's not 8 up now because these guys are out covered. They're covered on guys. They have to cover them. So we would have a call. We called Toto. So we came to the line of scrimmage and this guy here was on here, didn't realize he was uncovered. We go, Toto! The snapper would snap the ball to the personal protector. This R3 here that was now spread out. Remember, he's splitting the difference. He would step like this away. So if let's say I'm on the left side, he would step like this, just like this away. He wouldn't go vertical. He'd take a slight step, vertical and away. And then what would happen was these guys were taught on Toto to run outside release. Why? Because we wanted the gunner that was covering him to turn like this. So if this guy, this slot, is stepping up like this, we wanted him to not get earholed by the corner. So that's why we're the corner, open and run. So call Toto. Snap the ball, bang it right there. It's an offensive play. So if you're not good in the special teams, you're just creating an offensive play into it. Now, obviously, you know, certain parts of the field you may not do this, but yeah, obviously inside coming out from your 2-yard line, you may not do it. But I've seen it. I mean, we've done it. We did it inside our 20. We've done it inside our 30. But this is where this guy here has to be smart. Toto. Okay? You know, and he just, and people just knew that was who you threw to. What these guys do up front? Well, they just stepped and blocked. So they knew that initially if this was white, then he'd be responsible for here, he would be responsible for here. He had the 5, he always stepped away, he had 7, he had 8. So the only guy not blocked is 2, but 2 didn't know what the hell was going on. He's lining up on the line of scrimmage thinking they're going to punt the ball. And here's the personal protector catching the ball. There's 2 right there. Catches the ball, taking it and throwing it. Okay, this is good if you want to get extra. You want to get these guys out. Maybe these guys are good cover guys. Maybe what you do is you have these guys go to the ball, and these guys are now your support, your safety guys, or you switch it up. You have your 3s go for the ball, and now your outside guys are funnel. You can change it up. You can play games. Once again, you have more. You're setting the tempo with the amount of time you have to practice it. The other team you're playing doesn't know what's going on. They've seen it on film. Maybe they never saw it on film. So this was an aspect of it. What you could do from here is if the ball is on the hash. Let's say the ball's in the left hash. Let's say that's the hash. Ball's in the hash. All right? You go trips. Okay? Now you go here. You put you got your gunner. You bring your L3 over. Your R3 goes outside. Your L3 goes here. Now the numbers change. Or what teams will do is they'll bring the guy over to try and keep it consistent. However it is. Now you go trips. Or whatever you want to call it. They got to cover them. They got to put a guy on them. Whatever it is. Now you got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's 10. Now you want to get that rugby punt going. You want to get that extra guy over there. Now he takes the snap. Now he's running. They're stringing it out. Maybe he could take and run with it. That's where you get your rugby involved. Why is L3 number 3? Why? Because L3 goes in motion. He ends up where he started. So I showed you double slot. So if you wanted to put him over here, and you want to motion him, now he becomes number 3. So you got motion involved. So I'm just giving you one aspect. You got double slot. With motion becomes trips. Without motion becomes trips. You can motion from trips to double slot. And this is just to punt the ball. I haven't even given you, there's 12 fakes off of this. You can put this guy in motion, snap the ball, run jet sweep. Put person protector here, you work on the timing, snap it, boom, jet sweep. You can run this guy here, running jet sweep, faking the ball, and you can run trap, coming back with your personal protector. You can run an inside trap, where he blocks out, he blocks down, he kicks, boom. You could snap the ball to him. He could go through. He could take the ball, and you could run option in the other way to your punter. You can put him in motion. You get over here. You have this guy blocked down. You have this guy blocked down. You have everyone blocked down. You have him take the snap. He attacks. Here's your pitch guy. There's thousands of things you can do. And I could probably spend hours teaching you thousands of things you can do just off of one formation. Obviously, the toughest part here is protection. And I'll explain to you why. Let's just say, for argument's sake, sorry, let's just say you got this. L2, L1, center, or snapper, R1, R2, L3, R3, gunner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. PP, punter. So the protection's a little bit harder because now these guys are on the line of scrimmage, so they have to be taught there's really not a lot of help. So here's a white call. 6 up. Even. White. Set. So R2 knows he's got to kick to get the 4. R1 knows he's got to kick to get the 5. Person protector can step up for 6. Snapper's got to get to 7. L1's got to get to 8. L2's got to get to 9. That's your protection. And now you're trying to punt the ball over here. So now you can do games with these guys. Okay? Maybe this guy goes to the ball, this guy goes to the ball, and this guy comes behind. Maybe this guy goes to the ball, and this guy funnels for support. However you want to do it. You got this guy here coming across for support. Obviously, after you punt the ball, these guys have lanes. So now he's got to get out here. He's got to get here. He's in the middle of the field. He punts, maybe he's over here. He's following here, and then maybe he's now going for the ball. So obviously there's so many things involved. It's protection, punt, cover. And when you're doing this in punt, in the punt protection period, like I said, you got 8 minutes, let's say. And in 8 minutes, you got to get your base look out there. Your base look may not be that tight spread. Our base look, Coach Katz was our special teams coordinator. Did a fantastic job. I actually ran this stuff prior, so it was kind of cool to see him when he came on board to run a lot of this stuff. I had run a lot of this stuff prior, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, when this stuff finally started to come out of the woodwork, and it wasn't a normal thing to see. And people were like, "What is that?" Well, that's punt. That's what that is. Okay? So, you have to practice it. So you have, let's say, rep number 1 is you line up the front. So you got 8 minutes. You want to get 7 reps in. So rep 1 is you line up the team. You punt it with no cover. Then rep 2, you punt it and cover. Rep 3, you go double slot, do a fake. Rep 4, punt and cover. Rep 5, punt. Rep 6, go trips, go rugby. Rep 7, punt and cover. Rep 8, throw a fake in there. So you got this scripted out. Just like an offensive guy has his practice scripted out, or a defensive guy has his practice scripted out, you got your special teams period scripted out. And you got it going to cards. And that's why you have someone that's on the other side that's showing the cards. So when you're doing play number 1, and punt, which is just punt, these guys know, hey, listen, we're not covering. The only guys that are going are the gunners. They're always going. So you're rotating guys in there. So, you got this. I'll show you a couple of variations because I think we're over. What we used to do a lot of times is we may go tight punt. We go tight punt. Yep. We go tight punt in the middle of the field, and we call in the huddle, explode the double slot. Or we'd have a name for double slot. 200. Explode the 200. And on the snap, this guy would come out and say down. He'd go out here. He'd go here. He'd go here. He'd go here. So now they're thinking you're going tight punt, and now you explode to it. You may reduce to it. Just variations. The guys love it. And if you practice it enough times, it works. All right? The other variation we would do is, when we started to do motion, is this. What do you see differently on that one? We call that left up. Left up, we'd throw a motion in. Let's call it Lee. So motion to the right was Roy. Motion to the left was Lee. Left up, Lee. And then maybe we punt the ball. Maybe we had a lefty punter here. Maybe this is a lefty punter guy. Or maybe we had a personal protector here. We put R3 on the ball. L3 was in his wing. He had to be off. Okay, so that'd be right up Roy. Right up Roy, rugby right. So here comes Roy. Now in this particular situation, because R3 is up, L3 becomes number 2. Doesn't matter. Maybe in this scheme, L3 knows he's going to the ball. Maybe they're all going to the ball. This guy had a tough job because when you did right up and left up, he had a tough job because normally he's off the ball. Well, right up and left up, he's on the ball. So when he's off, he's already got a head start to kick. So he, sometimes these guys get a little lazy. They're playing 80, 90 snaps in a game. That's why you got to have multiple guys. So he was on the ball. He knew he'd get his first step. Get off the ball. Get off the ball. All right? You got all your fakes involved. Okay, let's say I'll show you this one fake, and then we'll call it quits. Let's say you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay? So remember, you got to have X amount of guys in the line of scrimmage. Okay, so this guy's on. Okay, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the line. He's off. He's off. So that's another thing that comes into effect. They got to know. Okay, so we go right up Roy, and then we'd have colors for fakes. So you had red, white, and blue for protection. So now we go right up Roy, black, Texas. Now you punt a bunch of times, so it wasn't always like you were faking. So he comes out here, he motions, now you have a trip set. They have to decide what they're going to do. More than likely, he is going to go. Okay? He's going to go. And then you're going to snap the ball from your center here. Okay? Because it was Texas, we did this. The center blocked 5. The guard blocked 6. The R1 kicked 7. He wanted to get beat up the field. You wanted him to go up the field. He either faked the one over his head or he went out this way. And he would then take it right here. And black was a trap to the run to the left, and brown was a run to the right, just like I said earlier with run and pass. If he didn't run, this is where you guys got to be smart. Okay, if he doesn't run with him, so let's say he goes in motion and they just bump. Now 2 goes out. Now they bump. I'm going to show you a bump. Look. Let's say they bump. They go 2. They go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now they're bumping. He didn't run with them. You still can run it. You don't. Nothing really. If anything, it's actually made it easier. Okay, so now your center still knows he's got the first guy to his right. L1 knows he's got his first guy. He's got the first guy inside, and R1 knows he's got to kick 8. L3's gone. L2 now has got to let 9 get upfield. Right up Roy, black Texas. It's an offensive play built into punt. So you got your tight punt when you're in deep. You got your shield punt if you want to go with your wings and your outside guys. You want to go double slot. You want to go trips. You want to go trips left. You want to go motion. I mean, I could spend months talking about combos and protections, and you got screens off of this and jet sweeps and options and so much stuff that you can do as a special teams coordinator. If you're looking to get a little niche in your game and you want people to recognize who you are and you're trying to move up, I was always in the moment. I never was trying to, my biggest detriment probably is because I never was looking for the next job. So I was always focused on what I was doing and my players and my program. But if you're one of those young guys coming up in the world and you want to be something about you, you need to look at this stuff. Now, you decide you want to look at this stuff, you need to make sure you're very detail oriented. Okay, so like when we would give this out in a game plan, well, here's a tip sheet that we would give out. And that would be like they would explode out when I was with Iona. There was descriptions, so on and so forth. So we're a little time, or we're off right now with time. We're a little bit over. Hopefully you got something out of today. We talked about punt. Next week we're going to go back and talk a little bit RPO stuff for offense. And we'll come back in a couple weeks and we'll revisit some more special teams. But like I said, just trying to change it up a little bit. And I appreciate you spending time with me on your Sunday. And once again, Chalk Talk with Coach Flo. Have a great Sunday. Take care.